There was a time where I really looked forward to LSU's bowl game. You got to play a different team. There was a lot of anticipation that was built up over time because you got used to a game every week and you had to wait a month for the next one. And when LSU played Georgia Tech after the 08 season that didn't go great, I was fired up to be in the Georgia Dome that night to watch that 08 team play one more time. Absolutely geeked to watch LSU play Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl when I was a freshman at LSU. Like that's huge stuff. And I enjoyed bowl games. But when I watched John Trey Kirkland go out there and try to play quarterback against Kansas State, that leaves a scar. And then the next year, Purdue's entire team failed to show up. They had Drew Brees walking around on the sideline, and LSU won by 1,000. And I'm just like, well, who cares? Purdue certainly doesn't. Last year, I was interested in the game, not for the result, but because Garrett Nussmeier was going to start, and I thought that was interesting. And so that gave an angle to be emotionally invested in. But consider what LSU's going to do in this bowl game on New Year's Eve. Your left tackle's not playing. You only have one scholarship tight end left. Mason Taylor's going to the draft. Kamorian Pimpton just went in the portal. So you got Trey'Dez Green, and that's it. Wide receiver, you got Xavier Thomas. You got Aaron Anderson. I don't even know what you have after that. Kyle Parker's hurt. C.J. Daniels is in the portal. Shelton Sampson's in the portal. Landon Ibietta's in the portal. I don't know who's playing wide receiver. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but the point remains. On the defensive side, you're probably not going to have Braden Swinson in the game. We'll see what Savion Jones decides to do. You've lost J.K. Johnson and Zaire Brown to the portal. So you've got Stamps, maybe Zai if he wants to play. But you don't have a lot of corners either. You get the point. Like, you don't really have your team anymore. And you're going to try to cobble it together and find a way to get into tight end sets. You're probably going to dress Bo Bordelon out to go in there and block a little bit. But that's not what LSU's team was. So, like, again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time grinding this bowl game. LSU's going to come out of that tunnel, hopefully, I used to be able to say this with confidence, hopefully in the gold helmets and white jerseys and yellow pants. And when they do, you have my attention. But I cannot sell you a bill of goods that says, you got to create some momentum entering the offseason. Come on. Momentum? I don't think so. I don't think Florida State went 2-10 this year because their entire team quit on the Orange Bowl. I think that you're just going to play an inconsequential game for 3.5 hours and get on the plane and come back home to Baton Rouge. But we're going to play Baylor. So I'll tell you a little about Baylor, and we'll get deeper into Baylor as the game comes. But just a surface view of what Dave Aranda's team looked like. And candidly, I don't know who's gone in the portal from Baylor. I don't know who's leaving. I don't know who's redshirting. I don't know a lot about Baylor's personnel other than what the stat sheet told me this morning. But I do a piece for LouisianaSports.net called Statistically Speaking. And I just go straight numbers. What do the numbers say you are? No context, just numbers. And I was a little surprised at the numbers for Baylor on both ends. The offense has been pretty good. Baylor's offense has been pretty solid. All these numbers are ranking in the Big 12. So with their peers, second in the Big 12 in scoring offense, third in total offense, and not slanted one way or another. They're sixth in rushing offense and seventh in passing offense. But the most important thing you do is score, and they're second in the Big 12 in scoring. So it's been a solid effort offensively. There's nothing that jumps off the page at you. They don't prioritize time of possession. They're second to last in the Big 12 in that metric, but they do everything else pretty well, include avoiding negative plays, where they're first in the league in the fewest number of tackles for loss allowed by opposing defenses. Got a quarterback in Sawyer Robinson that's had a nice season. They've got a running back in Bryson Washington who went over 1,000 yards, and they've really ramped him up in the last 4 games. He averaged 156 yards per game in the last 4 games. He scored 9 rushing touchdowns over those 4 games. So it's a Baylor offense that's been pretty good this year. Now, Dave Aranda, I think, is one of the best defensive minds in the country. I have never, on either side of the football, been more confident in a coordinator in my entire life watching LSU football than I was when Dave Aranda was down on LSU's sideline. That may be rooted in fact. It may have just been a feeling at the time. I don't know. John Chavis did a heck of a job at LSU. Certainly Joe Brady came in and did a great job. Steve Ensminger was awesome. There was a great year with Gary Croton there. Like, there have been some good coordinators at LSU. Jimbo Fisher did a heck of a job as LSU's offensive coordinator. Will Muschamp did a great job as LSU's defensive coordinator. We know that he was running Nick Saban's defense. But for me personally, when I used to look down from the press box and see Dave's bald head walking the sidelines, I would think he's going to get us figured out on defense. And this Baylor defense has not been that good, really, at anything. 9th in the Big 12 in scoring defense, 10th in total defense, 11th in rushing defense, 11th in passing defense. None of that is very good. The only statistic that I look at in Baylor's defense and we go, that's good, is they're 2nd in the Big 12 in third down conversions allowed. They only allow 35% on that down. But everything else is not very good. They're outside the top 10 in most everything. Now, the bright side to that, if you're Baylor, is that they've been a little bit better the last 2 games. They held Houston and Kansas to a combined 27 points, 17 in one game, 10 in the other. So my guess is that Dave Aranda didn't forget to forget how to coach defense, didn't have issues making adjustments. My sincere thought is that they probably don't have great players on defense. I can't back that up, but I know what Dave Aranda is capable of with good players on defense, and these numbers are not it. So I'm glad for Dave that things have gone really well over the last 2 months. This is a Baylor team that is coming off of a terrible year last year, and this year they started 2-4. They give up the Hail Mary to Colorado. I watched that game after LSU played UCLA, and they lose in just a gut-wrenching fashion in overtime with a Hail Mary that gets them into overtime. And at that point, you're sitting there and get to 2-4 after Iowa State whacks you, and it looks like Dave's going to lose his job because you had a bad year last year. You're 2-4. You just got smoked by Iowa State. It doesn't look good. And they rattle off 6 wins in a row. And that's going to keep him around for another year. And as I said many times, and as I kind of alluded to at the end of hour number 1, everybody that led me on that magic carpet ride in 2019, everybody involved gets my support forever. Everybody. And that very much includes Dave Aranda. So I'm pulling for him to have success at Baylor. I'd prefer it if he lost this game. But he probably would prefer to get this win to finish 7 in a row and try to move into the next season feeling a lot better than they did in September. But that's kind of a look at Baylor. The offense has been good. It's been balanced. It's been productive. The defense has not been as good except for the last 2 games against lesser competition. I don't know that Houston is very good at all. In fact, I know that they're not. And Kansas was good, it felt like, late in the season, but they were awful early in the season. I think they probably ran out of steam after a couple of big-time games in a row. They played Colorado in big game, and it's maybe they just ran out of gas. Jalen Daniels is a heck of a quarterback, but it's just not a Baylor team that's great. I'm curious what kind of attendance will be like. Certainly Houston has got a lot of Baylor fans and a ton of LSU fans in it that don't have to travel to the game. They just have to show up on New Year's Eve in the afternoon and catch a ball game that probably won't cost them a ton. So maybe you get a decent crowd in there, but I can't sell you a bill of goods. This is some sort of monster bowl game or momentum shift for the LSU program. The momentum shift for LSU's program is going to go on over the next 2 weeks, and that is how many players can you pay to get into the transfer portal and come play at LSU. That's the momentum shift for LSU's program, not the Texas Bowl. But we'll break down Baylor a little further when we get closer to things. That was just an initial look. If you'd like to look at all the statistics that Baylor's got and are curious kind of how I arrived at some of these numbers, you can do so at louisianasports.net. The piece is called Statistically Speaking, a first look at Baylor's. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.